Hi, my name is Nanfi and I am going to talk to you today about the storms of 2011, Hurricane Irene, Tropical Storm Irene, and Storm Alfred. And I also want to talk to you about my survival, my family's survival of the storms, and a couple of lessons learned, and how to be prepared for the next time. So I reside in Cromwell, Connecticut with my family. I have 3 children. My oldest stepson is away at college, so I'm home with my 2 daughters and my husband. And my oldest daughter, Stephanie, has multiple disabilities. And so I'm going to talk to you about our experience with the storm and basically what we did and how we survived and all that good stuff. So we lost power along with everybody else in Connecticut on Saturday. And in the beginning, we didn't think anything of it. During Hurricane Irene, I was a lot more prepared because we knew that it was coming. And we did lose power for about 18 hours. But we were prepared, and we were fortunate enough during that storm that we could actually go somewhere. We ended up in Windsor, Connecticut with a relative, and we were able to ride out the storm there. And I was prepared. I had all my disaster stuff. I had my kit. I had my daughter's individual education plan. I mean, I was that organized. I had all the insurance paperwork, everything, ready to go, food, stock, everything. So we packed that and we left, and we survived that. That was okay. And thankfully, we had no damage during Storm Alfred, on the other hand. It actually took, I think, us and everybody around the state of Connecticut by surprise, because in the beginning we thought it was just, early freak storm. It looked pretty and everything, but then we lost power, and we kept on thinking, well, okay, it'll come back. And my daughter Stephanie, as I mentioned, has multiple disabilities, and she has she's got sleep apnea, and therefore she has to use a breathing machine every night. And she also has medication. She takes growth hormone medication, very expensive, which we had 4 vials in the fridge, and approximately they cost about $600, and each vial. So in the beginning, I didn't panic because I said, well, the power's going to come back. It'll survive in the fridge for, for a day or so. And so I insulated it, put it in the ice packs, And, well, day 1 came, day 2 came, and we realized it was so cold in the house. And, for her sake and my other daughter's sake and our sake, we had to leave the house. Now, during the whole time, as soon as, when day 1 came, we were not as panicked. Day 2 came, and then we said, all right, well, we need to try and figure out, number 1, where we're going to go, and number 2, what we need to take with us. And, so we started to pack our items. In the process, I also was using my cell phone to try and find out what was going on in my town, if there were any shelters set up. And obviously with no power, we had cell phones, but the battery power was waning. And the first thing actually that I did was go on my phone and look at my town website to see if there was anything set up, if there were any shelters, just in case we needed to go there. I didn't see anything on the website. So I said, well, let me check the schools. If the schools are going to be used as shelters, that was my thought, then probably, there should be something on the school website. There was nothing. So my next step was to call Infoline 211, which I knew, was the place to call for information. I know that personally, just from doing the work that I do as an advocate for families of children with special health care needs. And I was on hold for I don't know how long. It was probably more than 20 minutes, and my battery power was waning, so I ended up giving up. And so we packed all the things that we could. We were fortunate enough that we had a family friend who lived in Colchester that had a house that they hadn't sold yet, and they called us and asked, told us that we could stay there. And so we went, but in leaving, we didn't know if we were going to have, refrigeration. We didn't know what we were going to find there. So I chose to leave the medication I wrapped it up, insulated in the ice packs, and I put it in the deep freezer, thinking that's going to be the coldest place. And we took everything with us, all the food and everything, and my daughter's apnea machine and everything. So we left the house, and so we stayed in Colchester until we got power in Cromwell on Thursday. And during the whole time, obviously, I kept checking the websites to see you know, if the shelter was open in Cromwell, where it was. There was this, I needed to know something because we felt like we were so disconnected from everything that was going on. I actually found out that a shelter was open from Facebook, coincidentally enough, through a friend who actually had gone down physically to the town hall and checked for us to see. And she, you know, sent a quick text and said there's a shelter that's open. And, you know, there were mixed emotions about going to a shelter because, number one, when you have a child with special needs, you don't know what you're going to find on the other end. It's easier, actually, to stay in the house because, you know, like I said, you have all the machines, you have everything. Carting all these things is, you know, people don't understand how difficult it is when you have a kid with special needs. There's so much stuff that you have to take, medication, equipment, you know, all the stuff, things to keep them entertained, and the food, and, you know, all the other things that you have to take in an emergency. And then the other problem is with a shelter, my daughter, who has severe scoliosis and has instruments in her back, it's very difficult for her to sleep completely flat. So we knew that we were going to be dealing with that in a shelter on a cot. And so if we had to go there, we would have, but it was not the best option. And, you know, like I mentioned before, in the work that I do, as an advocate for families of children with special health care needs, you know, I also heard from many families, you know, families who have kids with autism, you know, the routine is messed up, you know, there's no power that they're used to, and the children just bouncing off the walls. Sometimes shelters are not, you know, the best place to go because people look around and they just don't understand that these kids have behavioral issues. And, you know, I have another couple of friends whose children are on very, you know, have severe multiple disabilities and, you know, equipment and wheelchairs and stuff. And, you know, it's easier to stay at home. Imagine carting all that stuff. So, lessons learned, I think, be prepared in an emergency. The problem the things that you need to address are, you know, going to your town, check with the fire station, find out if your town has an emergency plan. I know I'm going to be doing that, and so I know that I'll be prepared. I'll go to my town. We have a firehouse next door. I'll be doing that. Start with your firehouse. If I can tell you anything, they will tell you where to go and find out. Just be prepared. Plan ahead. Have an emergency kit, paperwork, and all the things that you need for your child. Because sometimes you might leave. You don't know how long it's going to take to come back. Lessons learned from the storm is to be as prepared as you can. I talked before about having an emergency kit. In that emergency kit that you would prepare, I mean, typical things, the food and all that stuff. When you have a kid with special health care needs, make sure you have a backup plan for the medication, where you're going to put that medication. If you have paperwork, important paperwork, insurance paperwork, have that with you. Make copies of it and put it in an emergency kit. And then I even went as far as, you know, making a copy of my daughter's individual education plan. I put that in the packet, have a copy of that, and have it ready to go because you don't know when you're going to come back. And then talk to your town. Start with your town.
Thank you very much.